Hi, everybody. David Paparelli here. And before we get to our next guest, which I'm really excited for you guys to hear from, I wanted to give you a quick update. Our team is just getting back from the World of Coffee Dubai, and we hosted a live in Dubai, first of its kind auction in partnership with the DMCC Coffee Center. We auctioned off a limited quantity of 16 lots by 11 different producers representing 9 countries. We had producers from Panama, Hawaii, Bolivia, Colombia, Ethiopia, and it was so good to see all of these producers sharing the stage. These are truly some of the best producers in the world, and it showed with this incredible reception from the Middle East audience. The top lot actually went for $10,000 per kilo, which is absolutely crazy. I know a lot of you guys missed out on the live in Dubai experience, so we wanted to do a follow-on auction on March 13th. So this will be global and online on March 13th. It will be an exclusive, limited quantity of the same lots that weren't auctioned off in Dubai, but the same producers, same lots, a quantity just for our global audience. And the sample sets are on sale now. So pick up your sample sets, register to bid, and we will see you on March 13th. Now on to our guest. Everybody, I'm David Paparelli, co-founder of M-Cultivo, and I'm excited to welcome you back to our live event at the Dubai Coffee Auction by the DMCC Coffee Center. And we're here at the World of Coffee Dubai. So excited to be here and excited to be on stage and welcome our friend, Andrew Yu, who is an international sourcing phenomenon in the high specialty market. He runs a company called Panda Bear Express along with a few partners, and he sources a lot of Panamanian coffee. So we'll talk a little bit about that today, but looks elsewhere in the world too to bring fine coffees to fine people in buying markets. So Andrew, thank you so very much for taking the time and being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm Andrew. I'm co-founder of Panda Bear Express. We are a relatively new company, but we do try our best to travel the world and then to find the best coffees that we can.
So I'm going to start off with an easy question to get things rolling, but just wondering on what's the best coffee that you've tried recently?
Oh wow! You put me on the spot. That actually ease up my mind though.
You're going to offend some producers.
I will definitely offend some producers. But actually, I think one of the best coffee recently was with our partners at Calico, and then in London, UK, and then we were cupping till like 1 a.m. and then I actually is capable of not offending. It was actually a blend of all the grinds that we were using to cup. It was amazing, representing Panama, Colombia, China, Yunnan, and then Yemen and Kenyan coffees was all in there. It was a great cup, and it was a cup of friendship, I would say. It was like I don't know, 2 a.m.
I love that. I think we the cupping we did recently of these lots, actually, we took the leftover purge cup and drank through that, and that was probably up there in terms of one of the best cups I've had recently. So it's not a bad thing. You got to put all coffee to good use. So Andrew, I'm really interested in your story getting into coffee. You had a little bit of an unusual path, and you were a little later to the game than most into coffee. Is that right?
Yeah. So coffee, well, I was always a heavy coffee drinker. I love coffee, all kinds of coffee. Actually, at the very beginning, I started with just dark roasts, very dark roasts. I love that. I still love them. I enjoy like very Japanese style dark roasts. And then it was actually during the pandemic, I was stuck in China. We opened a bookstore. So inside a bookstore, we needed coffee. Like you need coffee with reading books, right? and we couldn't find coffee that we like that were already ready that you can purchase off the shelf. So we actually start sourcing good roasters, independent roasters, and then we sourced it good greens, find good roaster, roast them. And then what actually got this was two factors. One was that we actually bought a fig lot. Wilford knows about this because the first time I met him, I'm like, do you know why I'm here? It's because I bought some fig Tory. And then that's actually where it kind of started. And also Panda, he's Panamanian, and then we're best friends. And then we're like, okay, you're Panamanian, we want Panamanian coffee, so we should just do it ourselves. And that's how the journey began.
Amazing. And what's behind the name Panda Bear Express?
Bear is actually simple for me. I grew up with that nickname. And then Panda, we do jiu-jitsu. So we actually, that's actually one of the reasons that we met. And then there is a saying that pandas are very flexible. There's an inverted move that they can do. And then that's how pandas come. And then Express is because we're trying to express your next coffee. Yes. So Panda Bear Express.
Yeah, I love it. So you buy, I don't think there's even an argument around this. You buy some of the best or source some of the best coffees in the world to provide to your clientele. When you're looking for an amazing coffee, what are some of the key factors that you're considering to be able to market that to your clients?
I'm very fortunate to not have to think too much, just because the producers that we work with are amazing people. The first coffees that we actually ever cupped in a farm was already like some of the best coffee I ever had, and still they every time that I go to a farm, they offer us some of the best coffees that they have. And then this is hard. Wow factor definitely is one. Like if we actually get down to the really detail, floral, fruity, balanced, sweet, acidity, all of these factors. But at the same time, we do our homework. So we actually will work with our clients. We will work with our competitors. We gave them each profile. I actually have a notebook I carry with me that I know what coffee works for who. There isn't a perfect coffee. There is just great coffee that's suitable for you. And that's how we actually go about when we're sourcing the coffee on the table.
Yeah, it's always kind of an interesting thing when you have, once you get to, call it 88, 89, 90 plus coffees, you get to kind of a greater level of subjectivity, potentially.
Yes.
It's sort of amazing coffee, but does it have a wow factor?
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yes.
And then will it fit a certain client specifically? Will wow them?
Yeah.
That's a hard game to play.
Yes. That's exactly it. I mean, the hardest thing is actually knowing the client, knowing the coffee, and then knowing their environment. Being a global traveler, a global citizen, I travel the world ever since I was a kid. Cultural differences make a huge difference in flavor profile. That's actually what I do in research in school anyway. And environment makes a huge difference. We have coffees that are not generally enjoyed in Asia, but then it's enjoyed by the same people when it's in London. And it's not because the cultural issue is there. It's the environmental issue, the water, everything. It actually makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're drinking coffee in Asia, you're having to roast everything completely differently and treat the process completely differently versus London or anywhere else to steward that coffee to a home. And that requires a different coffee than the same coffee you would serve in London or Europe or North America.
And it's also about the season too. It's crazy. So this is a story. I hope I'm not taking everyone's time, but so
Yeah, you take as much time as you want.
Yeah, in January we actually cupped one of the best coffees that I had last year for a competitor. We sent the coffee to a competitor. Like he cupped it the first day. He thought, "Wow, this coffee is going to be. This is it." And then like we worked together for 8 months to get that one single lot. out of, I don't know, 200, 300 lots. And all of the lots would be 90 plus already to begin with. And then 2 weeks later, about 10 days before competition, he's like, Andrew. I'm like, what? He's like, the coffee's not working. I'm like, why? He's like, it's only acidity. It's only sour. There's no longer sweetness. Nothing is happening. And then we try to figure out everything. We have a checklist of things that we actually will speak with the client to talk about it. At the end, what we happened to figure out was that the humidity in the environment actually shot up in 2 to 3 days, that the humidity was 80. The coffee after roasting, during drying and everything, it was like, I don't know, it was like trying to extract itself. It was just being extracted by the condensation. And then so there was nothing left. So we actually had to adjust. He actually had to move his roasting environment. He actually had to immediately seal the coffee. And then there was no breathing. There was nothing. And then, well, at the end, the coffee came out great. But then these kind of things actually makes a huge difference. And this will change. Like competition in Asia is happening soon. Competition in UK is happening soon. Same coffee, different roast profiles, different water. So yeah.
Wow. And because that's a question on a lot of people's minds. And I think from a producer's perspective, it's just, well, the Asian markets like coffee like this, or the European markets like coffee like this. Sounds like that's only half the story. There's a lot more to it, because there's so many elements that go into making the drink after it arrives, that it's not necessarily a cultural or flavor profile. It's a lot of just creating great coffee.
I definitely will agree. Well, yeah, I'm not the person to be able to say anything definitive or conclusive, but from what I've observed, that is something that I totally agree with. And very often the miscommunication between the culture is the descriptors. And it's actually not because they're describing something different. It's because they are naming the descriptor to what they're describing is different. And then that's it.
I just have a different reference point.
Yes,
for registering flavors in their mind, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then so exactly as you said, it's half of a story that there's a cultural difference between locations and everything, but it's actually not.
So yeah, I mean, we don't have to go too deep on this, but I would be curious, when you're cupping coffee in China, and then coughing the same coffee or different coffee in London, do you feel like the profile in the cup, if you could transport the Chinese buyer to London, the London buyer to China, that they would both like the different coffees that you've sourced for that market? If that makes sense.
That makes sense. Not 100%, but then there will be coffee that actually a UK buyer might not necessarily think it worked in UK, but the same coffee, bringing the same person to Japan or to South China, to Shanghai, it will work because of the environment, because of what they ate yesterday, because of how their palate is for that week.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So I'm going to change gears on you a little bit, because you mentioned, you mentioned Wilford, and you mentioned your kind of adventure into Panamanian coffee as great coffee. Those seem to be long-standing relationships for you, buying relationships, sourcing relationships, let's call them, be more appropriate. How do you assess a relationship at this point, going into purchasing coffee, beyond just, is the coffee incredible? Is there anything else you look for in a producer?
I enjoy my time with most of the producers. I haven't met any producer that I don't like, and I hope that they all like me. Ooh. Then the fact is that there are certain producers that I will enjoy my time more, not because of their coffee, but perhaps because of their technicality. All of the producers produce coffee in their own right, and they're all beautiful. I haven't, especially for Panama and Colombia, that I'm more closely related with. They're passionate. They love their coffee. They bring to the table the best that they can offer, and that is beautiful. with all that said, there are certain producers that I enjoy more, maybe because of my background in data. So I like to see more numbers. I like to be able to discuss things that are more quantified. And so there are certain things that I look forward to when I meet a new producer or when I'm returning to the origins to see them, things that we can talk about. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So it's, it's kind of professionalism in terms of process, data collection. I guess that hopefully leads to some consistency and replicability. If there's an amazing coffee on the table, they might be able to do that same thing next year because they tracked how to do that. Do you see that play out in the producers that are maybe more data focused?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to work with producers that only produce consistently beautiful coffee. With that said, the producers that produce that utilize data more will produce similar profile of consistent coffee, while producers that don't, they produce still the best coffee. But then it can become a little bit of a roller coaster. It might not necessarily. It's a beautiful coffee objectively, but might not necessarily be the profile that we're looking for. That's the only difference, I think.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And then on these coffees you're buying, I think most people would consider these high prices because they are some of the best coffees in the world. I'd be interested in kind of taking to that, pricing or the negotiation. How do you determine a fair price for these coffees? Is it just given to you, or is there a little bit of back and forth to kind of land on what is fair for any given coffee?
It's multifaceted. There's many factors that come into play when we determine the pricing. It's kind of funny because last night I was just doing an offering list. So the factors include how difficult. I think the major factor is that there's the base price of the coffee, and then how hard it was to source the coffee, how much effort we actually have to put into a coffee. So scarcity is definitely one. But then we actually don't want to use scarcity to actually help people rent some of the costs. Instead, we want them to understand how much effort we put into a certain coffee. I'm not going to give names or use real life examples, but then there are some sources that actually just getting there is very hard. We are opening up new sources, and then we're open up new origins. There's certain origins that are much harder for us to be there. It might be physically demanding. It might be politically demanding. There's a lot of different stretch points. And after that, we want I'm a Canadian. I grew up trying to be fair and to be of equal and righteous person. So we're a for-profit company. We make money. But at the same time, we will not uphold the market by a unfair margin. That's all I can confirm.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's a little bit back and forth in the relationship. When we were looking at the coffees for this auction, there were three things that came to mind, and you sort of had to have this Venn diagram of overlapping. One was, quality had to be there. The other was sort of that scarcity rare. I guess you could call that a little bit of wow factor, potentially fit in that bucket. And then the last was really sort of producer marketability. Like there's kind of an unspoken of, does the producer have, content to do this? Do they have a following? What do they do themselves in order to help us help them sort of thing in some way? And I think that's just a healthy partnership. You just have to ask both. For you, kind of navigating these relationships, do you have any tips on kind of how to establish stronger long-term relationships, not just kind of find the best coffee, but something where, you might do business with these people for the next 5 to 10 years or longer?
commit to it, be there, um, tell the truth. If it's, I mean, there are going to be ups and downs. There are going to be times that we can't visit. There will be times that we really need to visit. There will be times that we actually commit to something, but then we actually have clients that actually just completely fall out. We'll try to actually mitigate the problems at the end, but then just be very open, transparent, and be communicative, constant conversation. I don't know. One of the thing is like in my short journey of like these past 2-3 years, I've traveled the world. I sleep on a international time. That's why I call it. So I'm able to tend to all time zones every single day. And once I'm committed to visit a client or a producer, I would do it. So I have fostered a great relationship with the community. And then I must say, the coffee production community is a great community. I love my time with them. I enjoy the communication. I've learned a lot. And I went there with the mindset of a long-term partnership. Very often with a new farm, new producer, especially at the very beginning, I would tell them that I know we're new. We're here to cup, but I know 90% of the chance you're already fulfilling other people's requests from 2 years ago. We are waiting in line, and then so far that has done us a great deal of favor. We waited patiently. We have gotten almost everything we wanted. The few lots or farms or producers that wasn't able to gave us anything or sell us anything was very transparent, very upfront about that. And then I really enjoy that. And then I'm not there for just 1 year. I'm not just there for just one day. I will go back and back and back. And then I think that's how relationships are built slowly, one day at a time.
And you're in a position where you do spend significant time on these farms, and you learn. I think, what I see in kind of the conversations we have and the interactions you have with the producers, there's this kind of innate curiosity and this this drive to constantly learn and improve, right? It's not just, a normal coffee tour with Andrew, I wouldn't imagine. I'm sure you're you're doing everything you can.
I'm definitely trying my best to learn as much as I can. There are sources that I don't buy from, but then I still visit to learn from. There are regions, origins that we don't buy from just because we don't have the human capacity to, but we still go and learn. That's definitely for sure one. And then staying and living in the farms, if we can, we'll try our best to. And then to actually not only learn from the producers, but also from the front line. Because there are certain things that even the producers themselves are not engaged in. They're great managers, they are great farm owners, but then there are some day-to-day things that only the people that are actually doing it will actually are capable of telling us. And then we like to communicate and learn from them too. And definitely, I try to bring a very different and enjoyable culture to the journeys that we go on.
Yeah, I mean, you're also representative of so many different markets. You just have this unique ability to give market side advice, I'd guess, to producers too, of what different buyers will like. And so as a purchaser, you almost give them free consulting, I would think, as you're moving, as they try and work with you as well, right?
That's actually very true. Today, I was talking to a great producer, and then I was like, I love your coffee. Our clients love your coffee. We just need a little bit more detail, so we can be a little bit more consistent on what we're chartering to the client, so the communication is easier. It's not that they don't. It's not they're hiding the detail. It's just that they never knew that that little detail is important, and then I'm very lucky that I have a great team that works with me. They're very overworked. I'm sorry, Rachel. And then, we try to bring as much detail to our clients, and our clients try to give us much feedback as possible. And then we will try to give as much feedback as possible to the producers.
Yeah, it's a good word there. In that same kind of vein, are there what are the biggest misconceptions about buying high specialty coffee that you hear from maybe your clients or from other specialty coffee buyers or other producers? Like, what do people think you do?
People think I'm rich. People think that we make a lot of money. People think that we're rich. People think it's a glamorous life. Green sourcing is easy. Green sourcing is fun. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. I enjoy it. But it's by no means easy. I love having my cup of tea or a cup of coffee at home in London every day. But no, I've stacked this stick last year from just ticket stubs. And then we're not even 2 months in. I've been to, I don't know how many clients. I'm flying to Origins. I'll be on a trip for, 16, 17 flights in the next 2-3 months. I don't know. Time zone doesn't make a difference for me. I'm constantly on all time zones. So, people think it's a very profitable job, and then people think that green buyers are adding a little bit too much to what they're charging. We really don't. With the expense that we actually have to put in with the time away from home, I think most of the green buyers are undercharging. But then, and again, green buyers are very important too. Direct trade is important. I support direct trade too. I have my own cafes, but at the same time, without green buyers, without sourcers, the communication is actually going to be harder. I think we're more like carriers and conveyors of like information, not just as physical green carriers.
Yeah, people kind of refer to green coffee buyers at times as middlemen. Kind of has this kind of nasty word to it, and it's the same with exporters or anybody else in the supply chain who's not, producing or I guess brewing the coffee. But coffee has to get from point A to point B, right? So there's a logistical challenge. But then for the coffees you have, you couldn't just go to that producer and buy that coffee. Like you said, you'd have to be on a wait list. There's some extreme scarcity to that. And then you'd have to have the talent to actually identify that coffee is great and worthy of your offer list, basically, right?
Definitely. And then it comes from it's not just the relationship, it's also experience. There are certain coffees that are hidden gems, and then you actually have to do a lot of cuppings to know and to be able to figure out what's happening. Especially the Asia market has a tendency to really want new, and that's a problem. There's two things here. One, the urge to sell to make money, to bring coffee to a market. I must say we're also we're sometimes complicit of that too, just because to maintain a healthy cash flow. But in the most ideal world, as a green buyer, there's a lot of coffee that we will actually want to not sell immediately, just because they're not exactly ready. And as end users and clients, they will not have that experience. They might actually think it's just that it's having a bad year, but it's actually not. It's because that this batch is just not ready. And then the other thing is, at the very beginning of the year, there will be a lot of cupping and offering, and we have to cup through them to figure out how is the cherry, how is the green this year, because a lot of them are not going to be well rested, but you have to already have a assessment to it. And that is experience that as a regular cafe owner, I'm sorry. I mean, I was once a regular cafe owner, right? I would not be able to tell you that this geisha or this SL28 is going to do well in 6 months if I've only cupped, oh no, 20 a year. I don't want to make it sound that I have a very hard job. I mean, I drink a lot of free geishas. But at the same time, I do at time have to cup 12 to 16 hours a day, table after table, and then to try to maintain objectiveness and maintain not be fatigued.
Yeah, I mean, and that is repetition as well as some talent. And I mean, I think it's fair to say, I mean, like you own cafes and things, but you would never say you just focused on being a cafe owner. That's enough. I mean, that's a full-time. I mean, that's probably 5 full-time jobs, doing then, oh, I'm going to be a green coffee buyer sourcing, and I'm going to be exporter, and I'm going to be have all these different things that are involved. It's just difficult to basically be an expert or run 5 to 10 different businesses.
Yeah. It's yesterday I was speaking with Jorge. I was talking to Jorge of M-Cultivo. I was saying that this year we're actually going to focus more on origin sourcing, and then we are signing a lot of agreement to relieve ourselves from distribution responsibilities because we actually want to be able to provide better coffee. We want to provide more complete coffee profiles when we're delivering the coffee because some of the coffee it's very sad, but then we just can't give off samples. We can't even sell samples. I mean, some of the nano lots are 4 to 5 kilo. They're the best coffee. We really want people to be able to enjoy them. So it will be very important for us to provide a very, very accurate profile. And that is not something that can easily be done when we actually have to juggle other responsibility.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm change gears again here. To get your outlook on the specialty coffee market. Are you guys seeing any, I mean, you're dealing in China, you're dealing in Japan and London, Europe, North America maybe as well, sounds like. But what are you seeing emerging in specialty coffee? How is the market changing, if that's a broad enough question for you?
I am too unlearned to be able to speak on this topic in any definite term. But as a casual observer or a person that's trying very hard to observe, it's a growing field. It's a growing market. I don't want to use that term, but then this community is growing. The community is growing, but how is the economy of this community growing, which is more associated with the market? I think at this time we need to be a little bit more speculative. We need to be a little bit more conservative. But at the same time, I had some great conversations with some of my great friends that that came from Panama, Colombia. There's a new wave of productions that are coming in, more sustainable, more affordable, but at the same time, it can be more profiting to the producers, allowing them to be more sustainable. I think it will grow, and the high specialty market will continue to grow also, but then the specialty market itself and the community itself will grow even stronger.
Yeah, I mean, when you start looking at Panda Bear in kind of this new world or this new emerging world, what are the opportunities you see? Where are you being what spaces are you being called into, and where are you investing your dollars? Like, what are you going after?
Amazing coffee that is going to be your next cup. Most of the time that doesn't break the bank, and on occasion we can dive into luxury and spoil ourselves, and so that's actually the middle market that we're looking into more and more. And from what I have relay with our clients, I believe that is also the market going forward. That's where we're going to be investing more. And one other thing on that note is customer service, to be able to provide more complete information to the coffee so they will be able to enjoy the green or the roast more.
Yeah. And I mean, as you're looking at, investing in those spaces, maybe that middle luxury market, I guess, would that be an apt description for that?
Yeah.
Something like that. Are the consumer, I guess, first question would be, are the consumer preferences the same? Is it mainly just, hey, I want similar flavor profile, similar attributes, similar characteristics for a little less money? Is that basically moving down that way, or finding more hidden gems sort of thing?
Finding more hidden gem. And also there's a lot of coffee, in my opinion, like, don't quote me if I said this, don't hurt me. I believe a lot of the green has been wasted because of misinformation. No, I'm sorry. Not misinformation, because of loss in translation, loss in communication, that the green was not, the information of the green or the information of the roast was not delivered properly. So down the chain of information, it was not properly shipped, it was not properly contained, it was not properly roasted, it was not properly brewed. And it's actually not because any of these specific notes are trying to do something wrong or bad. It's because the information was not passed down in a way that it can communicate and convey enough information for the coffee to be able to excel as it should be. And if a lot of the coffee are excelling as they should be, I believe the middle market has already been found.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you can ruin a great coffee by brewing it poorly, right?
Yes.
By roasting it poorly, by transporting it poorly. So, just becoming a bigger player. I think the inclination when you first get into coffee is we should just go source the best coffee.
Yeah.
But then the devil's in the details all the way to the cup, right?
Yeah.
And so I agree with you there. You work with producers all over the world, some of the best producers in the world, as we've already said. C markets on a lot of people's minds being at all-time record highs. Is that impacting any of the producers you work with in a meaningful way? Or are they completely so detached from the C market that they're there is no gravity to it? There is no pull. They can exist beyond it. What are you hearing from the producers you work with?
Well, so far they haven't. Most of the producers that we work with are sustaining themselves without the C market's attachment or the association with the C market. But at the same time, for sure, the C market's going to affect everyone. I mean, the C market affects us, and then so there will be a certain degree of impact, and there's a possibility that we're not feeling it yet, but I foresee that it will come. Yesterday's conversation was actually very insightful, just because that there are a finite number to 99% of the people's budget. So if the C market is rising, then it will actually cut out from the high specialty market, because in a way, C market defines the everyday necessity, while what we are trading in is more of a indulgence, spoiling ourselves experience.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a thesis and you tell me where I'm wrong. How about that? And neither of us are probably, read enough or studied enough to have this conversation. But I am curious. As the C market goes up, historically, it seems to consume, especially coffee, volume, right? I am curious on sort of this high specialty market, if the dollar value of the total specialty market doesn't really get consumed because scarcity kicks in and that supply and demand curve intersect at a different point. And so you have the US dollar value of the specialty market maintain or increase where the volume of green actually goes away. You tell me if that's completely poor, ungrounded thinking, or if that might be what we see.
I'm so uneducated that I would just say that it's actually a good chance that it's just a throw of dice. Yeah, but I'm serious. I mean, that proposition, that thesis is actually. It would take a few PhDs to actually define or brick it. But at this moment, I think most of the observer, or maybe just me as a casual observer, it's a roll of dice.
Yeah. Well, I think in my experience, the PhDs will tell us that's what happened 10 years from now. We'll get that information back from them, and you and I will have lived through that a little bit. Okay, let me ask you about, we're here for the Dubai coffee auction, and we've been talking about that. You've had the chance to cup these coffees now 3 times together. We've cupped the coffees 3 times together, I think. And so I appreciate you taking the time to taste through these coffees. I'd love first just to hear, what was your experience in cupping through these coffees, just having 11 different producers, 9 different countries on the same table, same auction. What was that like for you?
I mean, it was a great privilege to cup the coffee. One of the things, I'm not going to lie, I have been indulging myself with too much Panamanian and like great Colombian coffees, like great Panamanian, great Colombian coffee. Actually, most of the coffee that I have cupped are from or drink are from these 2 regions, just because I source mostly from these 2 countries. The coffee on the table is beautiful, every single one of them. There is a name that I have to name. I mean, the first time we cupped, I've always loved Kona, especially dark roast, Japanese style dark roast Konas. But then that Kona just wowed me. And at that moment, I'm not going to know if I'm going to win or not. But then I was like, oh, I need to get this Kona. And it's a very different experience. Like, there will be different price point, which in no way does it reflect how good the coffee are. Because as we said, 10, 15 minutes ago, a lot of them actually do comes back to the marketability. That's how the auction world works. So it was a great experience to have 9 different countries. I wouldn't say the best, because there will always be a better one, because the producer themselves will bring us better coffee next time. But then there was a privilege to have 9 country, 11 producers bringing their A game on the one table. You remember the conversation that we had at Calico right after cupping, because I want the other sources. And other than the fact that I wanted to generate more profit, was because that I actually found something that I really like. And then there are farms that I really like. Swaying into a question that I think you actually might will ask, auction coffee actually led me to source a lot of the farms that I work with. Because without auction coffee, without these sample sets that are being sent out, there are sometimes that I would never know about some of the farms. Some of the lesser known farms that are actually amazing by its own right, but they actually are great producers, putting their heads down and just producing, and then doing the grinding and hard work. And then they're one man team, or like a small 3 people family team. And then they just don't have the capability of doing any kind of marketing. Auction brings them to me. And I cannot be more thankful to auction, even though, the coffee becomes a little bit more expensive and a little bit more unaffordable. But at the same time, it does provide me insight into coffees that I sometimes would never be able to have my chance on.
Yeah, you're stealing my questions now. So we cut this short. You're trying to get out of here early. Like, I got to get to lunch, get out of here, get another cup of coffee. So on the point of auctions, right? So as an aspect of your sourcing strategy, what percentage of your volume do you think, and you go dollar value or kilos, probably I might say dollar value, do you source from auctions? Because I think that might be a more interesting metric. And has that changed over time?
I participated in auctions long before I source, just because, well, it was more affordable back then. It was more affordable back then, and then it was more like a personal indulgence, spoiling myself. I love coffee so much, and then now auction coffee contributes to, in terms of quantity, as you said, the number is very low. Well, no, because we rarely do big lots. So I think this year, I think a total of less than 100 kilo came from sourcing, but then that 100 kilo translate to 70 to 100,000, which is about 5 to 10% of our overall budget this year from sourcing.
And just over the years that you participate in auctions, how many solid long-term relationships have you gotten, do you think, of the producers that you work with? I mean, are you finding a lot within the auction, a lot outside the auction? Is it a blend of both, or how do you kind of look back at the forming of the seriousness of the relationships they use for sourcing now?
I would say it's a blend of both with the producers, but at the same time is also a relationship with the buying group. I grew a very, very strong relationship with the few people that I very often auction with. We actually, two of them actually, we started out not knowing each other. It was by chance that we wanted to buy the same thing. And then the lot was big enough that we can actually share it. So we decided to auction together. And from that day on, we have done many auctions. And then now we work very closely. Same with the farms. We work very closely. There are certain coffees that we will actually want afterwards that are not exactly the auction style, but then or maybe there's something from the coffee that we wanted. And then I think we built a very strong relationship with the farms that we work very closely with the auction. I mean, we only source from one in El Salvador, as you know. I'm flying over there. And then this actually started with an auction. Same with Peru. We will be flying there to visit, to do that. And I think it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good entry point. And you do get, what I've seen with producers, they're treating this as a brand building experience, exposure, you hear this sort of thing, but it is unique to get, a good, what the producer believes is the best spread of their farm, right? Or farms, right? They're offering, and just be able to get that on a table. And there's an efficiency to it, right? To where you would have to take a trip, you'd have to go down, you'd have to see the farmer, you'd have to pick out whatever lots you want to pick out. They just send it to you in a box. And you have the privilege of, spend the money you would have spent on the flight and everything on an auction lot.
Right? I think that is exactly why auctions exist and why they actually matter. Very often, there's no profit in reselling most of the auction coffee. We might actually sell some, but then not on the matter of like trying to make a profit. More on sharing and hopefully make a profit. But then it's exactly what you said. The sample box is well prepared. We are capable of trying coffees from, maybe it's a farm's private auction, or maybe it was Best Rwanda. I mean, we still haven't sourced anything from Best Rwanda, and we accidentally missed at the auction. But then that sample set opened the door for me that actually have Rwanda as a origin that I want to work with. And then there are farms that I know that I can go straight to. And then I was like, okay, let's see if we can actually work something out this year. And then what we can showcase your coffee, how can we do it? And that actually only can come from the auction sample set.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could keep talking forever. I love chatting with you. I learned so much from this. I do have two questions to wrap up, just to kind of shift out of the auction weeds and into the outlook. I use this phrase a lot in our company, but it's really, what we don't know, what will kill us. We tend to overanalyze the things we know and prepare for it well, right? And then things we don't know or unforeseen are the things that cause the most trouble or the most challenge that we have to react to. It's part of the beauty of being an entrepreneur, right? Is you sort of know how tomorrow's going to go, but it's not quite a 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
Be curious when you look at the call it the high specialty space, right? What's a topic that's not being discussed enough that people might not know that might kill us, sort of thing, or might cause some trouble in the future? Tough question. The next one's easier.
We actually don't know. We actually just don't know. Just a fun observation that of something that we know. The struggle or the connection between independent roasters buying green and home roasters buying green right now, and also that relationship as a grouping versus big factory roasters buying green. I think that is what's going to make the shift. Like, who's going to command a little bit more say? Like, will there be a tipping point of home roasters that will actually break the balance of the current status quo of a high specialty space?
Yeah, and is that a result of? I mean, it's a result of many, many different factors, right? But is that basically the world is just becoming a much smaller place where, yeah, it's feasible to DHL a 5 kilo green to a home roaster, and that's a thing. Is that kind of what's happening there? Or because you see importers doing this too, right? They're creating nano lot categories and micro nano lot categories and micron nano whatever. Like, they're doing whatever they can to make the lot sizes as small as possible. You're seeing offerings and that. They're obviously, I would think, seeing this home roaster environment. But is there something sort of beyond that you're hooking into?
I was laughing so hard because I was going to crack a joke. It's not because of any of that. It's because Sam Cora. he that's a joke, but then he's making links so affordable and so accessible. And then Coffee Logic also is doing a great job. All these like home roasting machines are hitting the market. It's experience. It's great. I mean, shout out also to like S3, S2 from Stronghold, Ikawa's. Like, all of these machines are brilliant. They're at different affordable price ranges. I mean, different price ranges from affordable all the way to luxurious. Yeah. And at the same time, there are more and more people that are willing to do fun small packagings to do different experience. So I think that is why the whole shift. I think it's the whole industry is just shifting, and also because DHL is so much cheaper right now. Well, oh no, DHL is actually more expensive this year. But then it's so easy to actually send these coffee. Packagings are easier. It's more accessible to actually maintain the coffee. Buying a small freezer, you can actually freeze green for a long time. You can actually take it out. And at the same time, it's not most of these home roasters, my clients, they would talk to me and then we will actually say, oh, same coffee. There's an independent roaster or there's a roaster that have it. Maybe you can buy it back and then do a comparison and see which roast you like more. Yeah. It's a fun experience too.
Yeah, I mean, people see that as kind of, I guess, consuming the market in some way, or, this kind of false equivalence of, oh, that's a competitor to what I'm currently doing. I think in specialty coffee, it's still a relatively small industry. And in comparison to the other industries that would get to a different level. And I do think, a rising tide lifts all boats. The more interest in the industry, the more people know. That was on the panel with the producers I talked to this morning. One of them, they just wish that people would be more educated about the coffee they were producing so they could make better decisions. And the best way to get educated is actually roast it and get experience in it, right? I mean, you don't just magically learn. Yeah, it's like the experiential learning is a big part of that.
Exactly. I shouldn't say that this is 100% guarantee, but then we make bread at home. We make doughs. You make pasta at home. What's wrong with just roasting your own coffee? And then at the same time, when I say tipping point, I wasn't clear about myself. I don't mean that they're going to tip this the market to a point that it will break the independent roasters. What I meant is that it's just going to break the current mold. And then there might be a more geeky approach. I mean, I'm a geek, so from my approach is that more geeky approach, we can do a lot more comparisons, and then it's more objective. It's experience. And at the same time, as you said, the high, not just a high specialty. Specialty itself is such a tiny little market that I don't think there will be like an actual competition between home roasters to the independent coffee roasters or the coffee shop. I mean, it's just like I buy some of the best coffee. I still go to Tim Hortons every day.
Yeah. I mean, at some point I was into home brewing, and I think I drank more beer outside of the house because I was home brewing. And I think it's that sort of relationship too could potentially happen. But good to get your take on that. So last question, because I know we got a wrap up here, but question I've been asking to folks on this podcast. Oh, and by the way, I should mention this. You are, I think, the first coffee buyer that we'll put on the Cupping Table podcast.
Okay.
So you're the first person on the other side of the cupping table. Everybody else, guess all other 9 or 10 that we've done, it's all been coffee producers. So I appreciate you representing the other side of the market for the first time. It's good to get the perspective.
I am a member of the other side. I can't represent, but I'm a member. I'm a very happy member, and I love to be here.
Yeah. Well, so the last question is, what are you hopeful about, looking forward to, excited about in the next 5 years, call it, of specialty coffee for you? Or for, I guess it could be anything you see in the end. You don't have to actually be working on, but what are you excited about?
Dark room drying.
Dark room drying. Okay.
It's many things. It's dark room drying definitely is one, but then it's a phenom. Dark room drying itself, it's just a phenom of all the hard work that is behind it, that producers are pushing forward.
Explain quickly what dark room drying is, because not everybody's going to know what that. Go ahead.
Dark room drying is a very overarching general term that I would say that a better definition would be a very controlled environment to dry the coffee. And doesn't necessarily have to be a dark room. And then it's a new method that is being explored around the world. It's not just Panamanian or Colombians. I mean, Ethiopians, Kenyans are doing it. It's beautiful. And as I said, it's just a phenom of how they're trying to push forward with this tiny little industry, trying to make art out of everyday life. That's very, very exciting. And then also at the same time, there are something that I'm actually just recently explored this morning. I got email from my college about a new sustainable project, and I think that. Because it gave me the email also talk about Costa Rica already, that they're building the lab. And I think that will also be a direction. This sustainability will be, it's beautiful. It's multifaceted. It's a blend of many elements. It's not just saying that, I need to be sustainable to the soil or anything. It's a holistic approach, and the holistic growth of this community is what I think is beautiful, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. Excited to hear more about those projects in the future. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew. You're, I mean, you just offer so much hard-earned wisdom coming from the market side of the equation, your experience. You have this unique perspective that comes from having traveled so much, seen so many different farms, so many different producers, and then taken that knowledge back to the market, and then taking knowledge from the market back to those producers, which is just being a good friend, colleague, consultant, advisor in the coffee industry. So thank you for playing that role. So thank you guys all so much for joining us, and thank you, Andrew, again.
Thank you for having me.
Great.